Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today. I'm Taffany and this is Tika's Gardens. Today I am going to be planting boxwoods. I have never planted boxwoods before. I've never had boxwoods at any of the homes that I've lived in or anything, so I have no experience with boxwoods. But I'm going to give it a try. Now I have heard that planting boxwoods in this kind of climate may not do so well, but I have seen people with boxwoods and they seem like they're doing okay. I'm gonna give it a shot. If it doesn't work, I'll just have to figure something else out, maybe do some hollies. But today we're planting these boxwoods and crossing our fingers. So I'm going to be putting boxwoods in two different places, and I have two different kinds. So let me show you what I have and then show you where I'm going to put them. So this is the first collection of boxwoods that I have, and they are called Winter Gem boxwoods. And it says that they get 2 to 3 feet tall and wide. I've seen online that it says they get wider than that. So I will see how they turn out, but they look pretty good and healthy. So I have 5 of those, and these are going to go in this section here to outline this bed and enclose what is a lime tree right there. I'll see if that lime tree is going to stay. I'm really wanting to put a tea olive there, but I have the lime tree. It was given to me, so to speak, no cost, so I'm giving it a shot. But I'm going to, let me back up a little. I'm going to put it here and outline this fireplace wall, and then that will leave outside of that area this section here that I can put perennials and things like that. And then of course the rest of this border, if you've been following me, you're familiar with, behind the chairs there. But that is where the first set of boxwoods are going to go, right there. Now I have, as I swing around here, some white. Let me get out of the glare. It's very bright out here today. Let's go this way. So I have over here my second set of boxwoods and some white Sunpatiens. I could not get my hands on the color pink that I wanted, so I'm going to do white Sunpatiens along the driveway, and in the 2 empty spots along that driveway wall bed are these boxwoods. And this is called the Better Boxwood. It says it's disease resistant and that it gets 6 to 8 feet high and 3 to 4 feet wide. So I figure that once it starts growing, I can prune it into maybe a triangular shape, like a Christmas tree style shape, or a columnar linear style shape. So I'll figure that out. But I'm leaning towards the linear shape because I tend to like that best, as you can tell from the columnar ligustrums we have in the Italian cypresses and things like that. So we've got these Better Boxwoods, which are called Skylight Boxwoods. We've got Sunpatiens in white, and then right here we've got the Winter Gem boxwoods. So let's get started planting. Well, we have those boxwoods in the backyard in front of the fireplace wall. So now we're going to get these better boxwoods in here along the long border running along the driveway, and we'll get the Sunpatiens in as well. So I'm just gonna get my placement the way I want it, and then we'll get started planting. This bed that runs along the side of the house here is a new bed. It has been in for just a few months, since the fall. This was grass, and I covered it with not newspaper, but I used cardboard boxes. And then I covered it with the wood mulch, and I've just let it sit for the last few months. So now when I dig in it, it's just nice, rich black soil. But I am still, before I add a layer of mulch over this, I am going to add a soil enrichment like a compost or something before I add my mulch, just to make sure the soil really has a good head start. But I really like that I did this and that I connected the front bed to that end part that was already there. Filling it, I've had all kinds of ideas, and so we're now in the planting phase, and I'm putting in these boxwoods. The Sunpatiens will be that big pop of color that will be our consistent color. And as I've mentioned before in other videos, the limelight hydrangeas, those and that azalea right in the center of the screen here are up for grabs. I'm considering if I'm going to pull them out or not, because they haven't really performed the way I would like. And so I will see what I'm going to do about those, but for now I'm going to have at least something that will definitely give me year-round color green, so that there's not an empty looking space during the cold season when everything dies back. The boxwoods will give me that year-round green. So I like that. So this bed will evolve, and you will be able to watch as I come up with something and then change my mind, or discover that this works better than that. And so as I figure out how to get this bed planted and with what things will work for it, you'll see, so you'll follow along with me on this journey. But so far it is looking good. I like the direction it's going in, so I'm really pleased with what I see. I've noticed that most of the boxwoods have been pretty root bound. I don't know why. Both of them, the better boxwoods and the winter gems, just really had a difficult time trying to pull the roots out and kind of separate them a little bit so that they can stretch out and grow. So I don't know how long they've been in their pots, but yeah, I'm noticing that. And I'm also hoping that these Sunpatiens are going to do good. The garden center, Houston Garden Center, that I got my other ones from, they were really big and healthy. And while these look good, you know, they're a smaller size. I got these from the big orange box store. So hopefully these Sunpatiens will perform well. I don't see why they wouldn't, but I'm just noticing the size, and they, you know, are a little bit more floppy. So fingers crossed on these Sunpatiens. I'll fertilize them and do my best to make them happy. All right, guys, I am done. So let's take a look at what I've done, and then we will call it quits for the day. So let's take a look. You can see the Sunpatiens lining the front in between the limelight hydrangeas. You can see the skylight boxwoods there and there. So we'll see how this bed fills out and decide if we need to take out those hydrangeas, because they have looked a little skimpy since I've gotten them, and I know this is not really the region for hydrangeas, but I thought I'd give it a try. And I have gotten flowers and I've dried them, and they're actually in the house. They've been there since last season, so I've gotten some flowers, but they've just looked really thin and skimpy. So if I don't get a nice green bushy hydrangea this year and it just looks, you know, sad like a Charlie Brown tree like it has the last couple of years with a few blooms on it, I'm gonna pull them out. But I love the boxwoods, and I think once they get to full height and they're shaped in a nice shape, it's going to be really pretty. And this season, having that white line the driveway is going to brighten up this area. All right, so let's get closer. That is so pretty, guys. I love it. And that rose is definitely my favorite rose. I come out here just to smell it. Take a look at this. Look at how rich and pretty that color is. That's so pretty. So now let's take a look at the other boxwoods. I have to take the tags off, so hold on, let me do that. All right, guys, I took the tags off, so let's try this again. Let's take a look at these winter gem boxwoods. So here the winter gem boxwoods are lining this fireplace wall. We'll get that lime tree resituated, but for right now what I did was I planted based on centering and spacing of the wall and not what's already planted there. All right, guys, well, that is it for today. We've got all the boxwoods in, we've got all of the Sunpatiens in now, so now I can get the rest of the mulch laid in the front and side and focus on getting the rest of the back garden done. So, more planting to do, but I look forward to it always. And I want to thank you guys for joining me today in the garden, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!